Jerry Mallory here, SBNationPrideDetroit.com. We've talked about the first round in day one quite a bit. We're moving on to day two. That is rounds 2 and 3. Have a lot of things to talk about. First and foremost, there are 3 big names I'm thinking about. And when you see these mock drafts, they're saying these guys are all first rounders. I'm guaranteeing that one of these 3 names will be available not just in the second round, but when the Lions pick, they're in the second round, which is the 11th pick. Additionally, there's a name that many people have fallen in love with. I'm here to tell you he's not going to be there. He'll be picked in the first round, maybe earlier in the second. And then we'll take a look back in previous years. Under the Martin Mayhew regime, we'll look at the best and the worst in terms of his day 2 picks. Now, in 2009, his first year, technically day 2 was not quite what it is today, but we're including rounds 2 and 3 in 2009 as well. When we're talking about the best and worst pick for Martin Mayhew in day 2. So let's get to those 3 big names. I'll go right to it. C.J. Mosley, Marquise Lee, Calvin Pryor. One of these 3. I don't think 2, but it's possible. But definitely one of these 3 big names will be available when the Lions pick. And they could very well be donning Honolulu blue and silver. Here's the reason why. First and foremost, there will always be reaches. We talk about reaches in the first round for the Lions at 10. But if a team like the Packers is going to make a reach, if they're going to make a reach, if a team like the New England Patriots, if they're going to make a reach, that means guys that were slated to go in the second round now go in the first round, which means guys that are slated to go in the first round will go and fall in the second. It happens every year. You have to consider injuries as well, especially with Marquise Lee and C.J. Mosley. This is why Austin Seferian-Jenkins is plummeted from first round to second to even third. There are always going to be situations where people are scared of injuries and they're reaching for other players, especially with wide receiver this year. There's so much talent at wide receiver. Just like the Lions saying they could pass on a wideout at 10 because they can get one around 2 or 3. Well, there's teams like the Jets and there's teams like the Eagles. They may very well say we're passing on a receiver as well because we can get one in rounds 2 or 3. So Marquise Lee, I keep mentioning him. I know C.J. Mosley, Calvin Pryor, you also could drop. I got this tingling feeling that Marquise Lee could as well. And so I'm not going to hedge my bet just on the receiver from USC. I will say this, though. Mark my words. One of you 3 will be available for the Lions pick. That doesn't mean the Lions will pick them, but it happens each and every year. A player falls, and lo and behold, we have a chance to get someone that was viewed as a first-round talent. Now, the next guy that we're talking about, he won't be there when the Lions are picking because his stock has began to rise. It's Cody Latimer. Now, here's someone that has the speed, he has the size, he has #1 receiver potential. For a while there, he was looked at as a second-round talent, a third-rounder early on. Well, the tape has been rolling out. The workouts have been impressive. He might not make it out of the first round. I got a feeling a team like the San Francisco 49ers could be interested in him. And if he does make it to the second round, he may well not be there for our pick. I'm going to go out and say he won't be there. A sexy pick, Cody Latimer. You're starting to hear that a lot as a second-round pick for the Lions. I'm sorry, guys. He won't be there. But a consolation prize may be one of the 3 big names I mentioned previous, as one of them may very well fall. Day 2, though, isn't all about the first round. There's also the third round. There's a few guys that could fall there as well. I already mentioned Austin Seferian-Jenkins. How do you feel about a third tight end? I'm not crazy about it if it's Eric Ebron, because that means you spent a first rounder on him. I'm not crazy if it's Jason Merrill, because that means you spent a second round on him. But when you get to the third round, I'm very comfortable with having 3 tight ends, 4 if you include Michael Williams, because Austin Seferian-Jenkins, to me, has the potential to be the best tight end in this draft. Freakish athleticism, ability. There have been some issues, there have been some injuries, but he's more than talented. If he falls, you snap him up. You pick him and I won't look back. I'll be comfortable with it. Just a name to throw out there. Another name that may fall is Kyle Van Noy. He's efficient, sometimes too efficient. He's not great at anything, which means in the first and second round, sometimes you want guys that are exceptional. He could very well fall. I don't see it happening. I'm just saying, throwing a name out there. Now, looking at realistic picks in day 2, though, a guy like Jimmy Ward, whose stock has fallen a little bit, I think he'll realistically be there for the Lions pick, and I think that they're pretty high on him. They've got him rated right up there with Clinton Dix, right up there with Calvin Pryor, and so that's a name I'm looking at. Reasonably talented, big playability, can play free or strong safety, which we're kind of going more traditional this year, but we can still use a guy that's versatile. And here's a realistic option being there. And there's a ton of receivers. Kelvin Benjamin, say what you want about him. You can't teach size. He has tons of it. Remember, Alshon Jeffrey had a ton of issues with his weight and other things, discipline, and we see what he's done in the league. So those are two names I'm throwing out there as realistic picks in round 2. Kelvin Benjamin, wide receiver, and then we're going to move over to the next position, a guy that we could use and plug in, maybe not start day 1, but it's Jimmy Ward, safety. And realistic options for day 3, I mean, it gets kind of fuzzy at this point because, I can name a guy, he could very well go in the 4th round. I can name a guy, he could go earlier in the 2nd. But if we have not addressed the receiver position yet, round 1 passes, round 2. Round 3 may be a good time because Dante Moncrief may still be there, possibly Devontae Adams. There's a ton of receivers. So look for one of those guys, Paul Richardson. If we don't address it in the first 2 rounds, receiver will be addressed in this draft. Now, we're going to cap it off. What's the best? What's the worst? In terms of day 2 under the regime of Martin Mayhew, we'll start first with the worst. It's Titus Young. I mean, he was drafted in the 2nd round. Supposed to be this compliment to Calvin. On the field, hey, he looked good. But there's a reason why he dropped to the 2nd round. It's because of the off-the-field issues. There were some concerns about him being immature. It all came to the surface. Everything from running the wrong routes on the team, getting involved with the law, punching teammates, getting cut, getting a second chance from the Rams, getting cut again. Now he's on the run from the law and checked into mental institutions. It's a sad story. There's a lot of guys. And if you think about it, traditionally, we have not done that good in day 2. Louis Delmas, pretty good career, but he's no longer here. Ryan Broyles, injury after injury after injury. Bill Bentley, still question marks, but Titus Young, you take the title. Now, for the best, I think this one's easy. It's Young. He's only had 1 year in the league, but Larry Warford looks like he is a top 5 guard in the league already. There were rumors that the St. Louis Rams were interested in drafting him in the 1st round. They made some trades and different things happened. They weren't able to get him. He fell to the 3rd round, and when he did, myself and many others were more than elated. And he has been as good as promised and as billed. We need more Larry Warfords and less Titus Youngs in day 2. What are some names you're targeting? Who do you think is going to drop? What's your opinion? We've got round 2 and round 3. That takes place on Friday, about a week and a day from now. It's exciting times. Leave your thoughts, comments in the allocated section below. I promise you guys, I have a lower body. You see my arms and hands a little bit, but you'll see more of me soon in different standings and different sites. But I know you just want to hear about football anyway. I'm not a mermaid. I have actual legs. And we'll get some variety in our videos coming up pretty soon. If you haven't subscribed yet, go and subscribe. As always, I want to thank each and every one of you for watching. And until the next day or so, we'll be talking about the NFL Draft. This has been Jerry Mallory for SB Nation and PrivateDetroit.com.